What's up, Mob Crew? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you can hear me all right, please put a 1 in the chat. Good to see everybody. For those that are new to the channel, I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover murder, mystery to the missing. And today we have a special guest, Amy Clune. Her son, Aiden, went missing last year in April. She's going to have a search coming up, which we're going to be a part of. In May, and we're going to talk more about that. But before we get started, we always like to give back by featuring the missing. So quickly do that. Get that. Okay, so for today's missing, we have Matthew Hill. He's just 5'7", 140 pounds. It's labeled as a critical missing. Looks like Matthew went missing out of Baltimore. He was last seen wearing a gray long sleeve shirt, blue shorts, and black shoes. He went missing 4 days ago. So if you have any information, please call 410-307-2020. And there's another picture of Matthew there. And then we also have Sarah Ebersole. She went missing last month in March 3rd. Not a lot of details, but says they believe she was getting into a blue sedan, possibly a Honda, and she is just 26 years old, white tank top and black shirt, just 5'2", 116 pounds. If you have any information, please call 352-368-3508. All right. So we will clear that up. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce my special guest for today, which is Amy Clune. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me on. Thank you, Chris.
It's an honor to have you on. And so your son, Aiden, sadly went missing last year. But before we talk about the timeline and stuff, do you want to kind of just give a little background about Aiden?
Yeah, sure. He was, it was just me and him. I was a single mom and just him, and his father wasn't in the picture for quite a while until he was in 5th grade, which it started to bother him. And it was good that he made a connection with his dad. He was pretty musical. He didn't like theater too much, so he did that when he was little. We did a little theater, but he was very musical, and so he learned how to play guitar and trombone in middle school.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he was very artistic too. He liked to draw. He was really into Legos. Even when he was 7, he would be putting together Legos that were for like 12 to 14-year-olds. I mean, he was relentless. He didn't care how big that Lego thing project was. He was going to start and finish all in one swoop.
Very tenacious.
Yeah. We switched schools a few times. We were going to this one school in town, and I wanted to get him into the charter school because I heard so many amazing things about the principal there. And so you have to get in by lottery. And we got in, and as soon as we got in, we heard that principal was leaving.
Oh, go figure.
Yeah. And so there was a new principal there, and he actually, he was there. He went like mid-year there, and he stayed until, I think he started 3rd grade, and then we left mid-year, 4th grade, because he had a really bad experience there, which I don't think was fair to him.
Yeah.
And stuff going on that he would come home and tell me, but he would tell me like way after the fact. It really hurt him. I had to put him into art therapy, therapy with a husband and wife team, really nice people, amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
So here he is. He's already in therapy at 4th grade about. And so we moved him over to another elementary school out here in Glen Ellen, which is actually the 2nd oldest running school in California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love that school. It's called Dunbar School, and it's over 100 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. and they're actually talking about getting rid of that school. I'm like, no. Why would
Yeah,
you
got
do that?
history. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where he was learning guitar, and he was also in a play from this guy. Well, this guy was the Ronald McDonald that we used to see in the commercials in the 80s. And he writes plays. He goes by a different name here in Sonoma, but when you see him and his chin and his cheeks, you're like, oh my gosh, that's Ronald McDonald.
Oh, the actual Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's
So
so nostalgic.
I know, and there's some famous people here in Sonoma, and like there's some famous people. Robin Williams had a house up here, and uh, who else? The guy from Pixar. I can't think of his name right now, but the guy who started Pixar, he was just down the road here from me. He had a big house up here,
Uh-huh.
and John Lasseter,
John
and
Lasseter. Okay.
yeah, and so he wrote plays like these westerns, and the entire fifth grade would be in it. And Aiden was the bartender. He didn't want a lot of lines, so he had these little one-liners that would come out every once in a while. And it was this huge thing, and that was their send-off into middle school. It was great.
That's
And
awesome.
and so he was doing pretty good in school. He was always a good student.
Mhm.
He was smart, but he was smart, but sometimes he was like because he could get pretty good grades without trying very hard. Sometimes he didn't try very hard. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah, he would just
Yeah.
like, that's good enough, you know?
Right, right.
And so, but he got a lot of A's, and so he was getting through middle school, and things weren't going great with his dad, and
Mhm.
yeah, and so they kind of parted ways, I think, by the end of his middle school, eighth grade. They were going to plan this trip together, and I really wanted him to go. I thought that would be because they didn't really have enough time to bond. His dad had another family, and he just didn't have a lot of one-on-one with his dad. So I was really, I wanted him to have that relationship if it was healthy. And
Mhm.
I tried to get him to go to that trip, but he didn't want to go. And I said, okay, you don't have to go, and that kind of put the kibosh on their relationship for a while. They did communicate a little bit after that, but not much. And so Aiden went into high school, and he started the girlfriend thing right off the bat. He got his first
He was a
girlfriend.
handsome kid. Yeah.
His first girlfriend, actually, he knew from preschool, and they had gone on a preschool date. Was from when they
Oh,
were, yeah, they both had this, they were both like, oh, they both really liked each other. So when
yeah.
they were in preschool, we had this little play date. It was very cute. And then they became boyfriend and girlfriend, and she's just so sweet and cute as a button. She's just adorable.
Yeah.
And so, but it was first love, and sometimes those things don't last. So that
Yeah,
that
sure.
passed, and so wasn't in band then. He didn't want to go in band anymore. He didn't want to play trombone anymore. Um, he's kind of plugging along, but he was starting to have depression. He was starting to have depression. He broke up with his girlfriend. He got depressed, and but he was having depressions, I think, a lot about, I think he was sad about his dad,
Sure.
and so he started having a little bit of trouble in school. Got another girlfriend. I think he was a junior, and this girl, he just loved her so much. She's very smart, very studious. His grades, if he had any B's, man, with her, she was all about study. Come over and study.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
his grade shot up to straight A's after that. During that, and they really liked each other so much, and she was a really good influence on him, and he loved her to bits. But he was starting to have some bad experience with people who were kind of interfering in his relationship with her, and just I don't know why people do that, but they that like you purposely go out and try to sabotage somebody's relationship. It's
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he had a really bad experience with somebody doing that. And so their relationship was pretty rocky after that. And some other stuff happened, and then they broke up. But Aiden, at the end of this was right when the pandemic hit. So first,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
so he broke up, and he was inconsolable.
Sure.
And I had to come home sometimes from work because he was so upset, and I was so worried about him. This is when he started to get like where he would have these bouts of just, extreme emotion. And I would come home and try to calm him down. And he did go into counseling for a while during this time. I think it was, no, it was before this. So there was a period before this where he was feeling down, that he was in counseling, like his sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
And he did go for a while. I would pick him up from school and take him to counseling every once a week. And he did that for a while. And then he decided that he was good. And, then he got the girlfriend. He's all happy, and he's getting straight A's. He's doing really good. He was on honor roll. He was on honor roll consistently, but
wow,
really good getting, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
And so then after the breakup, he was just really just a mess. And then the pandemic hit, it was horrible. I work for a company that's in the telecommunications industry. So I was an essential worker. And
so you kept your job while a lot of
well,
others.
yeah, I mean, everybody kept their job, but everybody else was working from home, and I was at the office with a core group, just 4 of us, the owner and the project manager and me and somebody else. And so we were kind of running around the office doing all the legwork that other people couldn't do.
So skeleton crew, you're making up for all these people. Yeah.
Yeah, we were definitely skeleton crew. And so it was hard because I really wanted to be home with Aiden. Sometimes he was struggling when they started doing the school on the line. It was not something I know some kids did okay. A lot of kids had problems with that. They just couldn't focus, especially if you don't have a parent there to kind of cheer you on and help you readjust with that. But, Aiden is kind of a homebody too. I mean, as he got older, he likes to go out, but he's kind of like me. We're a little bit homebodies, and we do like our decompression time,
Sure.
And so he was home, but this was just too much alone. And he was kind of starting to spiral, and I couldn't wake him up in the morning for classes. It was such a struggle, and he just didn't want to wake up. He started, this is where things got really bad. And I remember I was calling into Kaiser. One day on my lunch, I was in hysterics. I was, they're telling me there's no, he needs to come in or they weren't doing group counseling, but he can meet somebody once every 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm like, no, that's not going to help. So they partner with like Beacon or this other company where they outsource it. And I had to scream and yell and cry to get that to happen. But Aiden was in the same boat that a lot of people were during that pandemic. It was like that for everybody. And especially if you're working for Kaiser, it was a nightmare. So we finally got this guy. They sent us a list with I don't know if it was Beacon or the other one, but we picked out a guy, and he had therapy with him. It's over the phone, and I asked how it went. First time is you're just getting to know them and stuff.
Sure.
And then the second time, I was kind of here, I think, on lunch, and he came out and he said, well, I don't have a therapist anymore. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, this is what Aiden told me. I don't know how the other end of the conversation went.
Sure.
But he told me that this guy said, well, you seem fine to me. I don't think we need to have any more sessions. This is what Aiden told me. And, I need to find out if that's true or not at some point.
Yeah.
But he and he says, yeah, he just told me I didn't seem like I was depressed enough and we didn't need any more sessions and that's it. And I was livid. And I said, I want to call him. I want to call. He's like, no, Mom, you can't do that. And so I don't know what happened there, to be honest, but I hope that's not what happened.
Yeah.
But he just at this point was getting so full of despair. I was just so worried about him. Also, at this time, before they started school back up, because there was no school for a while. It was at the end.
Yeah.
He was working he was at the grocery store here in Glen Ellen, and people were saying like, "Oh, Aiden got jobs and quit them." No. My son got a job when he was 15, the very earliest that he could get a job, and he started working at the grocery store down here.
That's the same thing I did.
Yeah, he started right away, and he wanted things. He wanted to get things, and so he started working there, and he worked there for I don't know, like a year and a half. But in the pandemic, all of the older workers just fled. They were all out of there, and so it was just like these young people working full time. So that's when he started checking, and people were yelling and screaming in the stores. They were in hysterics. Don't touch me! Stay away from me! Oh, it was
customer service. I've worked customer service at a grocery store for 7 years, and so I can totally relate. And I never did it through a pandemic, but I did it I had to work on, if you remember Y2K, I remember working the night before, and it was chaos because you get one person coming in with 10 things of water and saying, "Oh my gosh, the world's going to end." The next customer comes and he's like, that person's an idiot. Why are they buying all this water? Nothing's going to happen. And it would just be every other person. And then you get ironic, it was crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so, like people were, they're wearing those face shields over their whole face, and they had signs on them that said, "Stay back." There were people wearing signs that said, "Stay back 10 feet" or something like that. And so like these workers who were trying to work around all this hysteria, it was it was hard on them too. People were stressed out. Everybody was stressed out.
Sure.
So he worked all the way through that. And then when he got to school, it was like he just didn't want to do it. And so, but he was doing counseling sometimes. And then, he turned 18, and I kept asking, there were times I kept saying, "Why don't you get on, would you consider getting on antidepressants?" And he would always, "No, Mom, I'm not going to take those. I don't want to take those. I don't believe in that stuff." And I was like, "Aiden, it might help you. Please consider it," and I had to get on him. I actually asked him before he turned 18, but he also just like, "I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it." And so he was working. Now he's kind of, when he was out of school, it was before graduation. So it was his beginning of his senior year. I think he met a new girlfriend, and she was really nice and sweet. She lived nearby. They worked together at the grocery store. That's how they knew each other. And so, so that was his new girlfriend, and they were going out a lot. Like they would get, drive to Petaluma, go get In-N-Out Burger. There's like almost no fast food in this little town we live in Sonoma and Glen Ellen. You have to drive like 20, 30 minutes away to get anything.
Wow.
Like that. Yeah. So they would make a trip of it and go get, In-N-Out Burger, go to Amy's, which is like a vegan place. And so that he was kind of just tooling around with her and really kind of having fun, and he started enjoying life again, and so it really was, I think they were together for a year, and they had met there at the grocery store, but he decided after a year and a half that he didn't want to work at a grocery store. He wanted to make a little bit more money, and he had a friend who worked at Dutch Bros who could help him get a job. That's a pretty laid back place, just all young people. Music is rocking all the time. It's peace, there's tips.
Sure.
There's swag. There's all kinds of Dutch Bros swag. They get these guys sweatshirts and hats and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember going through there with him once, and I said, "Oh gosh, this place looks like a hookup place." It's a little bit, yeah, it's like a little like young person, teenager hangout, dig me place, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
And so, you know, he worked there for a while, but you know, you're in really close proximity with people there. It's in this little teeny
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're
place. I don't know how they restock and stuff. There's like no room. And so he was kind of like with a new set of people, and he was going out and doing stuff with them, and he still had his friends from grade school that he reconnected with, but they were kind of not seeing each other as much. One of his friends, he always had like a core. He had these two guys that were his best buddies for a long time, and one moved with his father to Petaluma, so he didn't really get to see him much, but he periodically would see his one old friend, but he was kind of in a new group, you know.
yeah.
And so then there started to be some drama there, you know, which this kind of hits me as a drama place to work
Sure.
with all these young people. How can there not be, right?
Yeah. Oh, crammed in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was some little drama going on there, and I think he worked there for almost a year. Um, and and then he decided, so it was in January of 2022 that he had been talking to his cousin that we knew. He knew him as a child. We visited him with him and lived with him for a while in Florida,
Uh-huh.
and then he moved over here. Jordan moved over with his dad, pretty close to us in the East Bay over here, and so we would go over and watch his. He was a real athlete, and we would go over and watch his wrestling matches, and he would come over here and spend the weekend over here, and we would go to the beach. And so he had a really good relationship with his cousin, very good. And sometimes we would see my brother. Me and Aiden made a couple of trips going up one and camping and staying at different places, and we drove all the way up to Washington, saw my brother. My brother came down here one time, so and a bunch of us came together and went camping another time out at the coast. And so, you know, he knew everybody, and you know, the relationships were fine. You know, everything was
Yeah.
fine. It was good. And so he said, So Jordan had gone into he'd gone into the Marines and was out again, and he'd been out for a while, and had lived up there near my brother for a while. And that was, my brother is not his father. He's my sister in Florida's son. So Jordan is from Florida, but he went and stayed with my brother in Washington for a while to get on his feet and start a new career. And he's a heavy machine operator.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so he's, you know, starting his life, and he's also musical. Big shock. He's in a band, you know, and he's, you know, they had similar likes and everything.
Uh-huh.
So they said he wants to go up there, and he got really excited, and he was all gung ho. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's rough when you're on your own at first. So I'm running around, and I remember when I was young, I had like nothing, and
Yeah.
so I'm doing all this shopping and stuff for him, and then we finally get everything together, and we go up there, and it was you know, we were at a hotel, and then he moved in with him, and then he said goodbye to me. And you know, I said, you know, come down or call me anytime. And it was a really strange drive for me coming back from Washington alone without my son, you know,
Sure.
like an empty nest thing. And I was here for you know, people were saying like, oh my gosh, empty nest. I said, I know. You know, it's you know, you want your kids to go out there and start life. And
Yeah, but you don't want to ever let them go.
yeah,
Yeah, at the
you
same
don't
time.
actually. But
Yeah.
so 10 days later, you know, he'd called me a few times, but about 10 days later, he had left this message on my machine where he said that he had been talking to a new girlfriend. This is another girlfriend that he met at Dutch Bros. This is, yeah. I told him after the third girlfriend, I was like, please, can you please just take a break? Can you just take a break from the girls? I think that might be healthy for you to take a break. But no, you know, you can't convince teenagers of that.
Yeah.
So he said they were having a tumultuous relationship, and now it was long distance. And he said this was the first thing I heard. He said he thought he had a panic attack and that his leg was shaking.
Oh, he had a panic attack?
He said he thought he was having a panic attack and that his leg was shaking.
Oh, those are scary. I suffer from them. They're terrible.
Yeah, it was like in the middle of the night. So I got a message of him doing that. So when I woke up, I said, oh my gosh, he called me in the middle of the night, like 1 something in the morning. And so I called him back. I said, how are you? And he said, oh, I'm okay, Mom. It was just like, I don't know what happened. My leg was shaking and I just felt weird. You know, I was breathing. It was hard to breathe. And I think I had a panic attack. And I said, well, I had gotten him a Kaiser card where you can go up. It's a traveling card so that he could go to a Kaiser up there, you know? So, and then I said, we'll work on getting your regular Kaiser. It's kind of like a temporary card. It's like a travel card so that you can go see a doctor and not have so many problems. And, I told him you should go do that. Please go see somebody and check that out.
Yes.
And then he called me a few days later late at night and he was telling me that he was afraid of, you know, his cousin and that he was really scared. And I said, okay, well, you know, you can leave just get out of the apartment and call me when you're out. So he did that, and he was acting really terrified. And of course, I had no reason to not believe him. He had never said anything like that before, never.
Sure.
And so I basically stayed up all night talking to him. And kind of talking him down and saying, well, like, you can go stay with, you know, Uncle Sean, with your uncle. And he says, okay, that's what I'll do. And then I'll work on getting a roommate, find my own place. He didn't want to be there anymore. And I just thought that was so weird because they'd always gotten along and everything was always okay. And I've never seen Jordan lift a finger on anybody. So this is where things started getting weird. So he went and stayed with my brother, and 3 days later I get this call, and Aiden is saying that they're just trying to help him. You know, in retrospect, I realized all of this stuff that was going on was like this misinterpreted, like he had this, you know, paranoid interpretation of things that people were doing. Like they wanted him to, they said, well, don't keep all your stuff in storage, you know, bring it over here so you don't have to pay that.
Yeah.
His interpretation of that was that they were trying to trap him.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Leverage.
And they're just like, I mean, I know my brother and his wife, lovely people, and they were just trying to help him.
Yeah.
They didn't want to see him waste all this money on storage and stuff. And also Aiden started getting like super concerned about doors. And so the room he was staying in was, it was like a side room that they had, you know, it was not a full guest bed. My brother had a bunch of stuff in there. And he does like contract work and stuff. So he has like tools and stuff in there. And I guess he needed something out of there one day. And it was like morning, you know, it was like in the morning.
Middle of the night. Yeah.
No, it was when he was going to work.
Sure.
And so I guess he came in, and, you know, Aiden was always with me, like, knock, knock, don't ever come in without knocking. And
yeah, privacy. Yeah.
So I think, you know, my brother was like, he's asleep. I'm just going to go grab this. And Aiden was very upset about that. And it's just him getting his tools for work.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, he said, Aiden said like nothing happened, you know, there was nothing happened. He didn't like that though.
Yeah.
And so they were really trying to help him. And I remember what they were saying when I was talking to him on the phone, and they were like, they just wanted to really help him. And they were, upset that he was so upset about his cousin, and it just really started causing kind of a row in my family, and then so he was there for 3 days, and then he said, "Mom, I'm not staying here anymore. I'm going to go stay with an association." He doesn't even know this guy very well, but he also made music on his computer, which Aiden was doing on programs and stuff, and so they kind of
Oh, awesome.
yeah, they connected. Aiden made a lot of music on his computer, and in fact, that's one thing I left out all through the pandemic. He was making music, but he, not going to school so much. And he
Yeah.
had to make up a lot of work and stuff, but he would get up and later and then make music. He was just really obsessed with that. And this kid did too. So he went over to this kid's place, and this kid wanted to talk to me because him and his girlfriend, they just got this place, and they had actually been temporarily homeless because they couldn't find a place. They had been living in their vehicle for a while. So they just got this place, and he didn't really know Aiden very well. So he asked me, tell me about your son a little bit. And I said, oh, he's super honest, like nothing's going to happen. Like, everything that you have in your house will still be there. Aiden was, I said, Aiden's super cash register honest. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, he doesn't take things from people.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think this kid, he said, just a minute, and he got away from Aiden. I think he went into another room, and he said, I just have to ask you, does your son have mental problems? And I said, what? No, I mean, I said, he's had problems with depression. Is he being depressed? He goes, well, I don't know. He's not acting right. I said, okay, so I need to get him home.
Yeah.
Something, he said he had a panic attack, and he was fine. He was fine before he left, but he did have a couple of incidences with some friends before he left. And he was saying goodbye to people. He was having an issue with some people from Dutchboro, but that was it. So I finally convinced him. He was going to get an apartment. I said, Aiden, you don't have enough money left now to get an apartment. There's you have first, last, and deposit. You don't have that. So just please come home, regroup, save that money, make a little bit more money, and then you can continue on with your search to get your place.
Yeah.
So I convinced him to do that, and he did. He drove home, and when he got home, he was actually really happy to be home. And but he was also starting to act like really agitated. And he kind of picked up where he left off with the girlfriend. I don't know how often he saw her, but I noticed they were talking, at least on the phone and stuff. And something happened. They were having issues, and I told him when he first got home, don't do anything. Don't, just chill out. Don't get a job. Don't do anything.
Yeah. Decompress.
Yeah. I said, why don't you go skateboard? Because he liked to skateboard.
Oh, I love skateboarding.
Yeah, he was a skateboarder, not really hardcore, just kind of what I would call
casual.
Casual skateboarder.
Sure.
And then he liked to do Pokemon Go, still time to time, not all the time. And then and I said, play music and just do all this stuff, just decompress, And so he did for a while, and he was okay for a couple of weeks. Everything seemed okay. It looked like he was gonna, though he was still getting agitated. He was still kind of agitated. So then he says, I'm going to get a job with Sonoma this market up here that has, it had such great benefits, and it was nice, and they got paid every week. And
that's very rare these days.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's rare, and they also it's like a swanky little chain that they have up here, Sure. And it's one of these little nicer little grocery stores, and they had a lot of perks and benefits. But he said, and I remember before he started, he said, I don't want to work there because there's somebody from Dutchbros that I don't really want to work with that person.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I said, well, how much of a problem I said, it's such great pay and benefits. Why, I mean, do you think you're going to be working right next to her all day, or how much of a problem? I mean, there's a lot of employees there, it's
Yeah.
a grocery store, and it's busy. So there's a lot of employees. And he
Yeah.
goes, yeah, you're right. I'm just going to go. And so we started training, and it was like a real hardcore training. They put you in a room with like 8 to 10 guys. And this guy was just, apparently it was like boot camp. It was definitely
Okay.
like a weeding out thing. And
Wow.
the guy was
Yeah.
not nice.
Yeah.
And when he got out of there, the manager of the store down there where they were doing the training said to Aiden, so did you survive that? I mean, they know that it's not fun, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Never
And
heard of that. Not at least in the grocery
yeah,
side of things.
yeah. I don't know what their deal is with the training, but that it was not a pleasant experience. So then at this point, my sister had passed from cancer. This was her second bout. It was horrible. She has 4 kids. She's in Florida. This is a different sister in Florida. I have 3 in Florida, and she already had, this was her second battle, and it was really bad, and it was very upsetting, and the whole family was upset, and Aiden was really upset, and so he was going to have his first day that Saturday, and we were going to do it by Zoom so everybody could be there. And it kind of like he was doing something special on his very first day. And I guess a couple employees made comments like, why do you get special treatment? And he's like not wanting to tell him, my aunt just died of cancer.
Yeah.
And so I called him and I said, are you on the Zoom? And when he got on there, he's visibly upset, crying because he almost forgot it. So he was super emotional that day, and over my sister. And it was a long day for him. And then he said he had an incident with that person from Dutch that he also on top of it. So
Go figure.
so I was on Zoom with him during the celebration, which after he calmed down because he was so upset he thought he missed it. He calmed down, and we were on there for a while, and then his break, he goes, okay, I gotta go, everybody, and everybody said goodbye, and I was at another job, and then I got home and all the lights were off, and his truck was here, but all the lights were off, and I thought maybe he had gone out with a friend. But I come in and I knocked on his door and I asked him how his day was, and he said fine. He was in bed, and then he just burst into tears. He was so upset about whatever happened at work. And so I said, well, I talked to him about it. I said, let's write this incident down. You can take it into HR. And he goes, I don't want to work there anymore, Mom. And I said, okay, you don't have to work there. And so he wrote his resignation letter and went in the next day. I was at work again. He went in and quit and turned in his resignation letter, and also turned in the report about what happened. And there was an assistant manager there. I guess the store manager was gone on a vacation weekend, and they, kind of made the indication that it wasn't a big deal and that she was leaving. So whatever, and why don't you just stay anyway? And because they did put training into him and everything, and he is good at his job. He was good at his job. This, like I told before on different podcasts, this guy, I was going through the market here, and there was an older gentleman behind us, and he said something like "Mom" to me. Aiden did. I was with Aiden when we were shopping, and this guy said, "Is that your son? You have a really awesome son. He's great. He's a great guy. He's helped light. He's super, just a really good guy." I said, "Oh, he goes, you must be proud of him." I said, "Oh yes, I am. I mean, he had a really good demeanor with people, and so he put in that, and so when I got home, he was on the couch with his phone, and this is Sunday night, and I just got home, and we're talking. We're just kind of talking about what happened at the market there, and I said, Aiden, so I had been looking for somebody outside of Kaiser because Kaiser still hadn't been forced to give people actual mental health treatment at this point. And they were suggesting he go into group counseling. And he's like, no, I'm never going to do that. And so I said, whatever, I'm tired of dealing with Kaiser. So I started calling all around Santa Rosa to see if there were people who had, sliding scale or low cost because it's so expensive, We had one person that he went to one time was $340 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. $340 an hour. And he really liked her and had a couple sessions, but I had a dear friend who helped with that, but it was not sustainable for me.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I did find a place that had somebody that looked like a really good. I mean, I was just looking online, but he looked like a really nice guy, just like a really nice guy. And so I said, Aiden, and I called and left a message saying, I have a son who needs this. Can you please call him? But of course they don't do that. He's over 18. So I had to convince Aiden to call. So I showed him the website and I said, this is the guy. He looks really nice, and why don't you call them, or they might call and so answer calls that you don't recognize. And Aiden was like, okay, Mom, okay, I'll do it. I'll go into counseling. Okay. And just a few minutes after that, he was looking on his phone and then he got this really startled look on his face, like taken aback. And I said, what's wrong? And he jumps up from the couch. He goes, nothing. And he walks immediately back to his room and he's back there. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And I don't know what he's doing in his room, but he comes out and he goes, you know what, Mom, I think I just want to get out of Sonoma for a few days,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. And are you okay? And he's like, yeah, everything's fine. We're good, Mom. We're good. And I just want to get out of Sonoma for a few days. I'm going to go stay with a friend or my dad. And I said, okay. What happened? Because I could tell something happened. So I kind of kept on that.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't want to stay here. It's not safe here. That's what he told me. It wasn't safe here. I said, Aiden, it's safe here. It's safe here.
Wow, that's so strange.
Yeah. I said, we're surrounded it's like an Elizabethan theater here. In California, the houses are right on top of each other.
Uh-huh.
It's not like something could happen and immediately like 30 people would know. I mean, it's not like you're isolated,
Yeah.
This is out in Nevada where people live way out there. You're isolated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see why people carry guns,
Yeah.
But it's not like that here. You hear loud noise, there's like 30, 40 people that are going to hear it immediately.
Right.
And it's not like anything could happen without immediate attention. And I said, Aiden, it's safe. What do you mean it's safe? Look, they're right here. Everybody is right up against us. What could possibly happen,
Yeah.
And I said, we can just lock the doors and stay in. It's fine, And he's like, no, I want to get out of the house. It's not safe here. And I didn't know why he was saying that, but he says, I want to go stay with Dad. I said, okay, Aiden, if it makes you feel safer, go stay with your dad, but give him a call. And I said, what friend? And he goes, never mind, Mom, a friend. And I said, okay, well, call me. Just call me, as soon as you get to your dad or your friends, can you just call me to let me know you're okay?
Yeah.
And he says, yes, Mom, yes. And so he gets this duffel bag and he's throwing stuff out in the car. And I'm like, I keep asking him, are you okay? He's, yeah, Mom, I'm fine. And I know that he's not really.
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, Aiden, don't do anything risky. I mean, I can't, he wasn't doing anything. The only thing he did was say that it's not safe here. I don't know what he was afraid of.
Right.
But I wanted him to just like get over to his friends or whatever and call me. I said, if it makes you feel safer, give me a call right after that, please. And I'm kind of like following him back and forth, making sure he's okay. Telling him like, look, and he goes, Mom, we're good. It's fine. Everything's fine, Mom. It's good.
Yeah.
Starts doing that, which, he's like trying to placate me and stuff. So, but he's not having it, me trying to keep him there.
Right.
So, so he gets in then he went out to the garage. He was making a racket. And he had this black tote. They have the yellow tops. They sell them at Home Depots. Seen them? They're black totes with the yellow top.
Yeah.
And he grabbed one of those, and I thought, okay, so if he's going over to his friends, he's grabbing blankets and a pillow, and I thought that's what it was, because he was kind of like just kind of flipping it around and stuff. And he took it into his bedroom. I thought he was getting pillows and stuff. So then he put that in his car, and then I said, okay, honey, I love you, and please call me. And he's like, yeah, Mom, it's okay, everything's fine, and I'll call you. And I said, okay, be careful, and don't do anything risky. I said, Aiden, and he was just his mood. I said, don't do anything risky. I said, and I just had this feeling, he's never slept in his car before, but I said, don't sleep in your car.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. Just come home. If you decide not to stay with your friend or your father, please come home. Sure. And I asked him to call his dad, because they hadn't been seeing much of each other, and please call him and let him know, because that's going to be a surprise to him.
Yeah.
And so when he left, I called his father, and I said, Aiden might be coming out towards you to stay, to visit. And he said, okay, and he said he had a talk with Aiden or something, and Aiden said he wanted to meet him somewhere outside of Sonoma County. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, he told me the other day he wanted to meet me outside of Sonoma County. I thought that was weird. And I said, when did he say this to you? So Aiden had called him earlier. And I thought, okay, this sounds like more to it,
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, call me, text me or something when Aiden shows up there. Call me, he said he was going to stay with you or a friend, and please call me if or text me that he's there. And then I tried to call Aiden, and I think he had me blocked all night. And so in the morning I called his father, and his father said, no, he never showed up. And I'm like, oh my God. So I start calling, and Aiden, around 10:30, I think, in the morning. I'm not sure.
Yep, 10:30.
Yeah, okay. So 10:30 in the morning, he calls me, and he says, oh, hey, Mom. And I said, Aiden, where have you been? I have been texting you and calling you all night. And I texted him one time. I said, I'm going to stay up until I hear from you. It was like 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like mothers do. And
sure.
And so then he's like, I didn't get it. And I said, Aiden, I sent him a screenshot of like all the calls and stuff, and he said, well, I'm out at the ocean. I don't know if he said that time, we talked a few times, and then he called me and said he was out at the ocean, which I found out later was not true. He was back in Glen Ellen, down the block at his cousin's house. And I talked to his cousin and her mother later when I got back from Elko the first time, and that was not a good thing. His mood was not good there either, and they told me about it. So he's lying to me. He's actually, when I found out later, he was telling everybody a different story. Everybody. Wow. He wasn't even telling the same story to different people. It was a different story to everybody. Yeah. And so, I talked to them later, and she said that he was acting really weird, and that suddenly he wanted to leave. And if you came in contact with Aiden, he had something nefarious to say about you. And I have never told them that, but he was saying stuff about them too. They were just visiting with him. There was nothing to it, but he was interpreting everything now, I could see that everything was getting much worse. I didn't learn about this until later, until after I got
Sure.
from Elko.
Yeah.
And I also talked to his coworkers down here at the market here in Glen Ellen, and they told me that before he went up to Washington, that he had said that he was on antidepressants and that they had just changed his meds to. Now, this was a shock to me because he had always, adamantly refused to take
Take them.
them. But I did have this hindsight moment where I remember we were in the kitchen, and once again I was saying, Aiden, I really wish you would consider taking antidepressants. And instead of arguing with me, he just looked at me for a second and walked out. He didn't say a word. And that didn't really, I thought at the moment, like, oh, okay, maybe he's considering it. But in hindsight, I think he had already been taking them and he was hiding it from me.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah. And I think he was, yeah, in hindsight, I remember that moment because it was unusual. It was not his typical reaction to taking medication. I thought, oh, maybe he's going to think about it. But this was before Washington when this happened. And so I think he was already taking it and he was hiding it from me, which you should never do. People out there, your family members should know if you have any drugs that could have serious side effects. You should let your family know so they can help keep you safe.
Yeah. And I'm not an expert in that stuff, but I've been down that road and I know a lot of those, they take time. And as a matter of fact, when you first get on some of those, they actually, your symptoms get worse before they get better, depending on the drug and stuff. But I've kind of experienced that. And that's so tough.
Yeah, and Royal Blue, I just want to say, my gosh, thank God, because Aiden said something in his sound. I got into his iCloud and he was saying something about going to Mexico and asking me about San Diego, and I'm super fearful of him going into Mexico. The way that Mexico is right now, and so there's so many fears that you have.
Of course.
About what happens to your child when they're out there and you don't know anything about it. And I was okay. So I want to get back on track, but
sure.
So where are we? So now he stayed overnight Sunday night in his truck. He was lying to me, and when he told me he was at Bodega Bay, I was like, oh, that's great because that's his soul place. That's his favorite beach out there. And I thought that'd be great. He'll enjoy that. It'll help ground him a little bit. I really thought it would help ground him, and maybe he'd come back home, And so So then he blocked me again after that, and this is Monday, and then I talked to him later when he didn't block me, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, can you send me some money for gas?" And I'm like, Aiden, I don't want to. I want you to come home. I don't really want to send you money because something's not right. And he hung up on me, and then he called back later and he was like, "Hey, Mom, guess what? I just got this huge deposit, and I got all this money." And I was like, "Oh my God, no, no."
Yeah.
I was like, "Why? Why did that have to happen today? Why?" And so now he's like, "Yeah, I'm great, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Where are you?" And I asked him, "Are you north or south of the Golden Gate Bridge?" And he said, I'm south. And I said, "No, you're not." Because, I know him. We can read each other really well. And I knew he was lying. And like I told you, he didn't lie a lot to me. He owned up to his privacy. I mean, he would say to me, instead of lying to me, if he didn't want to tell me something, he would just say, "Mom, it's nothing you need to know about. It's my own business, blah, blah." This is how he would talk to me. He wouldn't necessarily lie, though. I know he did lie a few times. Yeah. And but he wasn't into telling a lot of lies. He would just tell me, "I'm not going to tell you."
Yeah.
And so, but I could tell he was lying. I said, "No, you're not. You're north of the bridge." And so I didn't know if he was going to Washington, where he was headed. I kept asking, you know, he kept hanging up on me, and then he would call me back. He called me back later that day and said he decided he was going to go to his grandparents. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, I'm going to go to Mike and Debbie's. They got a brand new trailer. And I was like, oh my God, you know, thank God he's going somewhere. He's
Family.
He's
Yeah.
going with family. This is good, because I was really scared about where he was going to go and not tell anybody. But now we had a destination. Now we knew he was going. I said, oh gosh, Aiden, that's so far away. Okay. You know, yeah, I said, you know what, Aiden, you could get like a barista job there, and just, you know, just for like hang out and chill out and figure things out for the summer. And, you know, I just wanted him to land so I could have them have them, you know, eyes on him. And
Yeah.
I wanted to drive out there
Sure.
and get him into counseling. I think we actually talked about him getting counseling on one of the phone calls out there. We had talked about, he goes, yeah, probably should. Yeah. You know, so he's kind of saying these, yeah, okay, I'm going to get it together. I'm going to get a job and all of this stuff. And he was feeling all hopeful now. He's got a full bank account and a destination and his own little space. You know, it was this nice trailer that was going to have garbage and water and be his own place and everything. And he was sounding really hopeful. And then there were a lot of phone calls between, you know, the grandparents and all this stuff. And we were all talking and talking about the arrangements. And Grandma Debbie was really excited, and Mike was really excited. And they were looking so much forward to spending some time with Aiden, you know, having him in their life on a regular basis. And
now, is that on your side or his?
That's on his dad's side.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's his paternal grandmother, and that's her second husband. But Mike's a really nice guy, and you know, he's Grandpa Mike. So so I mean, they've been together for a really long time. You know, her second husband and them for decades and decades, and so that's Grandpa Mike. And so he called me from the flats at one point. He said, hey Mom, I'm on the salt flats. I said, oh my gosh, take a picture for me. I said, I heard that can be boring, because Debbie was saying like, oh, that's such a boring drive. I said,
oh, it is. I've done it a million times.
Where do you go? Like to Elko or?
Yeah, when I go to when I was going to look for a deal in, you go right across this I-80. This whole between where it says West Wendover and 80, it's the flats.
We drove by it a few times. I actually flew into Elko, and I think it was in June, or flew into Salt Lake City, and what a waste of time. I think between them losing my luggage, getting the rental, and the flight, which was a two-parter flight, it took 15 hours. I could have driven out there in 10. Yeah. And it was a lot more expensive. And I was like, forget this. Just rent a car. I had to rent a car and buy a plane ticket. I didn't even use that plane ticket home. I didn't.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. I didn't. I got a car and went home. And so I actually got Aiden's truck from Elko. That was the time I got Aiden's truck. Because they're saying, you know, anyway, I don't want to jump ahead, but so he said, I'm going to meet them at about 5:30 or 5 o'clock. I can't remember. And so when it got close to him getting there and he started to actually get there, he said he was meeting them there. And I think it was the Sugar House area. He didn't tell me that. I found that out later, but at a Speedway gas station. And right before, he was literally like 30 minutes away or 25 minutes away from them. And he called me and he said, Mom, well, how do the locks work on these trailers? Is it like a front door lock on a house? And I said, yeah, you need a key. You can lock it from the inside. You can lock people out. Aiden, please don't start going down this path. Come on now.
Yeah.
Don't start getting paranoid. See, so like when people like to have a lot of theories out there, Aiden was having across the board paranoia. It was
Right.
the equal opportunity. If you were talking to him, he was paranoid of you. That's what was happening.
Yeah.
And if you were in his path, he was paranoid about you. And so I said, please, honey, don't get dark about, please just go there. If you don't like it, just try a week.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I'm trying to get him to land there. I'm like, please don't.
Yes.
I was afraid he was going to go on the run again. And I'm trying to talk him into, I said, just check it out and see what it's like. And, I'm trying to get excited for him. And like, just, if it's not to your liking, you can just, you don't have to stay. You don't have to stay.
Right.
So he met them, and then at 5, it was about 6 o'clock. I don't know if it was 5:30 or 6 o'clock. I think I gave you the notes because I checked the time log and everything on that. So it was a quarter to, he starts sounding paranoid. Yeah. So they meet him at 5. And so when later, Grandpa Mike told me that he acted totally normal and that he was just very relaxed, and they were talking about the military and how Aiden wanted to go into the military. And I said, what? That's a lie. Aiden would never go into the military. He thinks it's fine for other people, but he does not think it's fine for him. And so sure. I said, that's not true, that he would never say that.
Yeah.
And so this is what I mean about him telling stories suddenly to people left and right, all these different stories. And he said, yeah, so he wanted me to ride in the truck with me, ride in Aiden's truck with him to the house. And his friend would drive his car back. And so they got in the truck, and he said Aiden just sat there with the keys in his hands in his lap. And he's like, come on, we got to follow my friend. We got to follow my friend. And Aiden just sat there. And all of a sudden, Aiden, he said it was like this switch, like he had this totally different kind of like look on his face, and he just stuck the keys in the ignition and revved that car up and sped away in the opposite direction. And Mike was taken aback, and he said that at one point Aiden was going 60 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Oh my goodness.
And so he was manic and on the run and not being his chillaxed self that he was minutes ago. So so he's telling Mike, hey, let's go to Washington. You want to go to Washington, Grandpa Mike? And Mike was saying, like, Aiden, that's not something I can do right now. I mean, if you want to plan a trip, let's go. We can do that. Sounds like fun. We could do that. And he's still trying to talk. Mike, yeah, let's go. I want to go, and you should come with me. And so Mike's saying, Aiden, I can't really do that. And so he's starting to get nervous because of the way Aiden is driving. Aiden has been known to drive really fast at times. And so he's getting his phone out to call his friend. And he believed that Aiden was going to try and grab his phone, because he sees Aiden looking at his phone and then looking at the car window and like putting his hand, like he thought he was going to grab the phone and throw it out the window.
Wow.
And so he pulls his phone away. And then Aiden says, do you want to go to Washington with me or not? And he says, no, Aiden, I can't right now. And so then Aiden just pulled over, said, get out.
And this was on the freeway.
This was on a freeway, on a really busy freeway.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that was happening. And then so Debbie calls me and is hysterical, saying that Aiden tried to kidnap Mike. Grab his phone, and I said, oh my God, call the police. And she was like, I don't think she wanted to call the police on her grandson. She just wanted him to, she was, I said, I'm calling the police. So I called Salt Lake City Police, and I told them what was happening. I said, I think my son is having a mental break. I think he's experiencing something like a 5150. I don't know what you guys have. They have this one. I think it's called Section 62A. That's the technical term for it. By the way, it was in legislation for them to turn it into when you get picked up for that, for a 72 hold. But I don't know, at that time when it was out there, it was just a 24-hour hold. But I think that earlier this year they put it through the Utah's legislation to try and make it a 72-hour. And I don't know if that's passed. I was trying to find out if it passed when we were on a break, and
Yeah.
I couldn't find it. But so I called him and said that. I said, it's like a 5150. You guys need to find him. They asked me where he was. I didn't know where he was. Called Debbie. She didn't know where they had met. And she said that Mike's phone ran out. It only had a few moments on it. And he had called Terry to tell him where he was. And then he called her. And then his phone ran out. And so they're waiting for them to get back up there, which is like, they're about 40 minutes out from their house. And this is excruciating for me to wait for the wait. I need to know where he's at so I can tell the police where he's at. So I called the Utah State Police, and I had, there's a lot of highways around there in Salt Lake. And I'm like, you guys look for him. And I gave him a description, car description. And so then what happened after that? So I call Aiden and I say, Aiden, he picked up the phone. He picked up the phone this time. And I said, Aiden, what happened? And he's putting on this nonchalant, what do you mean? And I said, Aiden, what happened with Mike?
Yeah.
And he said, Mom, I just wanted to go to Washington. I asked him if he wanted to go, and he said he didn't want to go. And I said, but that is not what he said. That's not what he said. It sounds like it's a little bit more involved. And he's like,
right.
Mom, it's just, he just didn't want to go, and I really want him to go. And so blah, blah. And then he kind of hung up on me. And, I said, can you please, well, I don't know if he hung up on me or there was more of, please come home. There was a lot of that, please come home. What are you doing? You can't do that. Please come home. I was constantly saying that. And he's like, I can't do that. I can't do that, Mom. So I think this is where he blocked me for a while until later that night. And he called me or I called him. I can't remember. I was texting him all the time too through this. And so I said, where are you? And he goes, I'm not going to tell you, Mom. And I heard a semi horn. And so I was like, you're at a truck stop. And he said nothing.
Do you think at this point, because after him dropping off his grandpa on the I-80, or it might have been I-15 or I-80, and then he goes to Park City, he buys a cup of coffee.
So I think what happened there is he was, like I said, he ripped out a sugar house. Sugar house. I always want to call it
That's
sugar
okay.
house. He ripped out a sugar house just going the opposite way, and he was manic. He was just driving. So he could have been on 80, dropped him off like where the little man is, and then just kept going, know? And then I think he saw, so Park City, where is that?
Park City would be to the right. It would be fitness grade. So yeah, it's
so I think he was seeing more rural areas. And then I think he saw a coffee place because at this point he had been driving all day from Reno all the way.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
And Aiden he's like me, he likes coffee.
I love coffee. Yeah.
And so I think he decided to pull over. And I'm glad he did, because he was driving like a crazy person, and he was having a manic episode. And so he pulled over, I guess, there. I didn't learn about that until the next day. I saw the receipt, and it seemed like a coffee purchase to me. And it wasn't very much. And I thought it had to be coffee because he was so tired. I think he was tired. So now I don't know where the heck he is for a while. And he calls me. Let me see. So he calls me a few times. I heard the semi. He called me actually for short periods of time, kind of 2 or 3 times that night. And then I think it was when does it say he checked in? The receipt says he checked in 8:58. Yeah. So he called me at 9:15 and told me he was in his room, that he got a room. He wouldn't tell me where. I didn't know where he was. Utah, Salt Lake City, somewhere. I knew he was on the road, so I didn't know which direction he was going in.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't tell me. but he sounded just so exhausted. You know, he was wiped out. He was really wiped out.
That was a lot of driving.
Yeah, because that's
Between those
4 hours.
2 days. Yeah.
4 hours back to Wells, I think. About 3.5, 4 hours back after an
Yeah.
8-hour drive. So that was like 11 and a half, 12 hours of driving.
Oh yeah.
And you know, he gets that from his grandpa. My dad, we used to call him King of the Road. He was dad would drive forever. I think he drove 24 hours straight one time. But Aiden was exhausted. And so I said, okay, honey, I'm glad you're somewhere safe. You know, you're safe. And he says, yes. And, you know, later I know that the gentleman that worked there said that he was he was calm and he seemed, you know, like really nice, polite person. And he was, but, you know, I know that he was also in a manic episode. He was having a crisis, and he was doing that thing that people have seen him do, which was later I found out from another friend, which is he pulls it together and acts really normal.
Sure.
And then kind of can't sustain it. So that guy was saying like, oh, he seemed like a nice kid, didn't seem like he was in distress. He was in distress. He was hiding it. I believe he was actively hiding it.
Sure.
So, but he was in the room, and he's calling me, and I can hear the TV, and we're talking, and I'm just trying to get him to come home, you know. And I'm really worried about you. Please, Aiden, please, please come home. You know, there's you can't go out there, you know. Just, he goes, I'm not going to talk about that, mom, blah blah. And so then he called me one time, and he was a little while later. It's getting late, you know, and he called me, and he says, Mom, I can't sleep, because he had been on this manic run, you know. He's like, it's what do I call that when you're like that? You're super exhausted. I call it wired tired, you know, when
Sounds
you're
good.
yeah. I used to get that way because I also worked in restaurants a lot, and you're busy, and you know, you've got your adrenaline up all night trying to, you're in the weeds, and you're trying to, and then at the end of the night, you can't, you're exhausted, but who can go to sleep? Your adrenaline is up. And so I used to call that wired tired. And he was wired tired. He was very tired, but he couldn't go to sleep. So I said, yes. So I started reading him something, and he just was sitting there listening to me read. And then he said, okay, Mom, I'm going to try and go to sleep now. But he was texting me too. We had been texting each other in between calls. And, you know, I'd say like, are you still up? You know, and if he answered me back, I'd say, you want to talk? Let's talk. So then he called me back, and it was pretty late. It was after midnight. And he wanted me to talk to him again and read from a book, which I started reading to him. Actually went up to the garage and found it. And for some reason, it wasn't like he remembered. It was the opening paragraphs were about like these gangster guys. And Aiden said, never mind. I don't want to hear that. I said, okay. Yeah. And he goes, okay, Mom, I'm going to sleep. And I said, okay, please call me first thing in the morning, you know. And I'm always trying to get him to tell me where he's at, but he bought his own phone. When he went up to Washington, he used to be on my plan, and he cut all ties like that. He went and got his own phone, his own plan. There was no way that I could see what was going on with him through the phones, which I was like, oh my gosh, literally weeks.
Another obstacle.
Yeah. So so he said, okay. And so now there was what was going on at this point? Because I didn't know he was in Wendover at this point.
Right. You're what people don't understand is you're kind of a day behind when you're learning this information. You know it now, but before you're a day behind getting receipts. Yeah,
I didn't know what was going on at that point. I didn't know where he was. I thought, my God, could he be? Which way is he headed? You know, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And so I think I was calling family and friends and raising the alarm, and I believe this was the night I reported him missing at this uh, Sonoma County. I reported him missing. I talked to his dad. I talked to a bunch of family, and then I called the police, and they were like, "Are you sure you want to make a report?" I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do." And so they took a report, and I sent him over pictures. I sent him over information about his tattoos. I sent him all the information about his vehicle, because he could have been coming back. I didn't know. I didn't know. But
Yeah.
when I talked to Utah, they told me, when I talked to Utah, they said, you need to report him missing in your locale, because that's where you live. So I
Okay.
did that.
Uh-huh.
And then I sat there on the couch with my phone plugged in on my chest, just waiting for Aiden to call. And I woke up at 4:30. I slept for about 2.5 hours. I did,
Yes.
but I was on the couch. There was nothing. I wanted Aiden to sleep. I wanted Aiden to rest his mind. I wanted
Yes.
him to sleep. I really wanted him to sleep. Because if you're in a manic state, it just gets worse if you don't have sleep, So I was praying he was sleeping, but I remember right around 5 o'clock, I got this really strong urge to call him. And I was like, oh God, I just want to call him so much. But he used to yell and scream at me when I disturbed his sleep here, and I'm like, and he's only had at most 4 hours of sleep.
Right.
At most he's only had 4 hours of sleep. So I'm waiting, and I think at 7 I sent him a text like, hey, I still knew that he only had 6 hours of sleep at this point. So I said, hey, Aiden, call me, and I didn't hear anything. And I sent him another text, call me. Can you call me? And then I tried calling him. And yeah, nothing. Okay. So then I called, and this is where I start getting panicked. And so then I go over to this was before 8 o'clock. I came to the computer. I started looking up if there was anything new, I was
Uh-huh.
checking throughout the night to see if I could find a hotel, because he was in a hotel. And I kept checking, but it wasn't coming up. You know why? You paid cash for that. And I kept checking and checking. I'm
Yeah.
praying that it would come up so that I knew where he was. And I did that a lot through the night too. I was just like on the computer, phones, it was.
Yeah.
And so I'm searching and searching on the internet. Where could he go? And so I see that Park Place thing, and then I see this Wendover thing. Now, here's something that I just figured out. I saw that he had taken money out of an ATM, and I went back and looked at that really carefully when I was preparing for this, and I
Uh-huh.
saw it was Carson City that he took the $200 out of. But they came in close together. See, so the ATM came in right at almost the same time that the Chevron came in. And when I looked at it in my panic, I thought he had taken it out at that Chevron. And people had said, like, and even the guy, we don't have an ATM here. Well, I looked at it. I didn't know what not Carson City, Carson? Is there on 80?
Are
Is there just
in Utah or in
in
Nevada?
Nevada? Like,
I know Carson City.
well, there wasn't Carson City. There's another Carl something. Anyway, I was confused because I didn't
Yeah.
recognize it, and they came in right stacked on top. So the coffee came in, the ATM came in, and the gas came in, like in that order. But that's not when they were purchased.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They were all just kind of coming in at the same time, but you didn't
Yeah, and
know.
so
Yeah.
I thought that's why there was confusion about that, because I thought I was in a state at this point, and he's not
That's a
answering.
fun idea.
So I thought he had taken the 200 out there, but when I took a closer look at it, he'd actually taken it out much sooner. And so just to clear that up for people who are wondering about that, yeah, that was my bad. I never really went back and looked at that. I always assumed that that's where he got it, because
Yeah.
it came in sandwiched in between those two transactions, between the Park City and the one. And so I'm calling him, nothing. So then I see that he was at that gas station. And so I called the gas station and I said, my son was just there, because it posted. This was weird. It posted, you have two transaction dates. You have the post date and the transaction date. Times. So there's the posted time and the transaction time. And they both said 8:20 something a.m. And I'm like, what? I said, my God, he was just there. He was just there. He's just there.
Yeah.
So I called the store and I'm like, oh my gosh, do you see my son? He's in this truck. Oh my God, help me. And he goes, I don't see anybody like that. I haven't seen anybody. I came in, 7 a.m. and blah, blah, blah. I don't see anybody like that. And I'm like, oh my God, check your video. And he goes, I can't. You have to call the hotel. The Chevron belongs to the hotel. So I call the hotel and they said, we can't. You have to call security. And security says, no, we're not going to do that. And I was like, what? So then I realized, so I call back to the Chevron station and I'm asking him, to get me the receipt or something. What does it say on the receipt? I just wanted to see everything. He goes, oh wait, yeah, that wasn't this morning. It was like between 8. Now I've worked at registers before, and there's never a between 8 and 8:30 on a receipt on a transaction in your register. I was like, what are you talking about? Give me the exact time.
Yeah.
Give me the exact time. He goes, no, this was last night, ma'am, somewhere between 8 and 8:30. And I'm like, oh my God. So now I'm looking at the map. I'm looking to see what's going on and where he could be. And I'm like, well, he's on 80. He's headed west.
Yeah.
And so I thought he must be staying there. That's where he must be staying. I start calling all the hotels to see if there's an Aiden Clune there. No. Then I'm like, okay, I got to call the police. So I call West Wendover police. I'm like, my son is having a primary crisis. I think he stayed at a hotel there last night. He's got this truck. I give him all the information. I had my son's registration out, so I had everything down. And there's license plate number and year and make and all of that. And I actually had his driver's license number. And I was sending them pictures, and so they started looking for him there's like casinos there and some hotels there, and it's right on the state line. And so they're looking all over the place. And I called Thule because I thought he could have gone south. He could be in Utah still. I called the Thule county sheriffs. I called Elko County sheriffs. He could be in their territory. Later, there was just a flurry of calls. I mean, it was family, friends, police, hotels. I called. Then I saw that there was a couple of transactions that came in from CVS and I believe CVS and Home Depot. And I got the CVS receipt, and I actually talked to somebody, because there was a transaction number at the bank, through the bank, and I gave it to her, and they said that he bought shampoo and some black something. And I said, wait a minute, could that be dye? And he looked at it and he said, oh yes, this is probably dye. Yeah, hair dye.
Hair dye. Oh.
Yeah, hair dye.
Oh,
and I was like, oh no.
Yes.
Yeah, he's dyed his hair a lot, but I do remember he tried to dye his hair black once, and because his hair is so healthy, it didn't really take. It just looked darker brown.
That happens to me. You got to leave it in for so long. Yeah, I've had that same problem. Yeah.
So his hair could have been black when he was went missing. Yeah. So then I called Home Depot, but they didn't tell me what he bought. He only bought something like $16 there, so I don't know what it was he bought. And maybe he thought he was having. I don't think they sell spark plugs at Home Depot, but I don't know what it was that he bought. But it was about $16, and I asked them to call me back, and they were just too busy for that. They never called me back and told me, and I was on to other stuff now. So they're looking for him. This is now Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so we're calling all over. They're looking all over. I called. So it occurred to me, like, he could be anywhere. He could be he was obviously headed west. So I called the NHP at 1:13 in the afternoon, because I'd been calling everywhere else. And, it occurred to me, like, hey, he's probably not in Elko County anymore. I'm calling NHP. He could have gone south of Las Vegas. I'm calling the NHP. That's statewide. So I call them, and the dispatch is like, oh, have you already made a report? And I said yes to Sonoma County Sheriff's in Elko County. And she's like, she goes, well, you just call them back. And I said, no, I'm not calling them back and going back to them. No, I'm telling you, he's having a psychotic break. He is having a mental crisis. And I told every single jurisdiction that. Every single person that I talked to, dispatch or a deputy or whoever that I was talking to, I told them all the same thing. And I found it kind of shocking that on a lot of the reports that was missing.
It wasn't in there.
It was missing, was not recorded because I started asking for call logs in the reports later. But that's one thing I want to talk about later, is how to do that. Which is something you need to do. But so I made her. I told her, this is Carson. I don't know he's in Elko County anymore. He could be anywhere. He could be headed down to Las Vegas. You guys need to take down his information. That was it. 1:13. So then, so there's a lot of calls between law enforcement and just everything's calling back and forth. I'm texting Aiden. I'm calling Aiden. And at this point, I know something is, really terribly wrong. And I didn't know what he may have done, to himself, or I was so scared. We couldn't find the hotel he was in. I didn't know. I kept texting him, please wake up. Wake up, Aiden. Please wake up.
So sorry.
So that night was it was really bad. That was a really bad night for me. When I was on the phone, I think the last time I talked to law enforcement was about 1:00 in the morning that night. And I had talked to Utah. I think I talked to Utah Highway Patrol again too, because I thought he might be, somewhere in Utah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on with him. But I thought he might go south because he said something about San Diego. So, that's why I was calling the NHP, because, if he was headed down that way, he'd go right through Nevada and into California. So, and I called the California Highway Patrol.
You were trying to call these people getting ahead.
I was trying to jump ahead of him. I was trying to get ahead of him so that somebody would see him. And now there was a report and bolos and he was, so I think when I reported him missing on Tuesday night, I reported him missing on Tuesday night with Sonoma County. He's under 21, and when a person that is missing who is 21 and under, there's a law called Suzanne's Law. It's been around since 1989. I believe this New York student named Suzanne was one of her friends at the campus saw her get off a bus and go towards her dorm, and she was never seen again. And that's because a lot of stuff happens to college students, right? So they got this law, that her parents got this law passed, and it's a federal law, Suzanne's Law. And what it means is that that when somebody 21 and under is missing, they have to be reported to the NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, which is available to all law enforcement, FBI, sheriffs, police, any, highway patrol. It becomes a part. So if they type in something,
it's in the database.
Yeah, it'll show up.
Yeah.
And so that was done. And it's also the law that it has to be entered in 2 hours. It has to be done by someone who is certified you have to get certification to enter into this database. And you also have a dedicated computer for that no one else is supposed to touch. Right. So it's for privacy and stuff, for security. So no, we haven't known where he was. It was a horrible night. I was on with law enforcement all night, family and everybody, and I'm freaking out. I still can't reach Aiden. I can't reach Aiden all day. And into the night, and I don't know what's going on and or where he's at. I'm thinking maybe he's going to San Diego. So, call the CHP. And we've called San Diego too. We've called we called San Diego because we talked to the guys down at the beach, the jurisdiction down there. And this one lady, I had a really interesting conversation when I called the central dispatch there. And she's like, I said, he loves the beach, but we think he might be in San Diego. And she said, well, then I'm going to put you through to the beach guys down there. That's their patrol. And I said, ma'am, people who like beaches don't stay there 24/7. If it's a different jurisdiction, I'm reporting it to you as well. You'll need food. What is the beef with people, with these guys taking jurisdictions? Oh, well then, it's like my son isn't going to live on the beach 24/7.
Right.
He likes the beach, but come on, he's got to come in for food. I just told her, no, I'm talking to you, and you're going to take down my information, and then I'll talk to them.
Sure.
And so you have to be really aggressive with these people. And in fact, if you demand to make a report, they have to do it. And I want people to know that. And there will be no arguing when you say that. You say, I am making a report. And so it will have a report number. And that's all you have to say. And if they try to dissuade you, just say, I'm making a report with you.
Right.
Okay. And they have to take that report. So then, we've also called places like he's been to Santa Cruz. There's a young homeless drug problem population there, a lot of young homeless people there. And I took him to the boardwalk when he was younger, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here with all these teenagers? They looked like they were cast members for The Walking Dead. It was, I said, it's time to go. It was getting dark, and I said, time to go, honey, let's go.
Yeah.
And so I thought he might go there because that's a beach community. It's a really nice beach. So we called down there. We gave a report down there. We sent pictures down there. I went up Eureka. I'm actually going to go up to Eureka and Santa Cruz and start doing that. But I called all these places to give them Aiden's information. I actually thought Aiden had called me from Eureka at one point, and I called the police there, and I'm running around and I'm getting them uploading photos and go to this place. I got a phone call and it says it's at this one address, I did a look up, and they went out there and they said, it's a dairy farm. And I'm like, well, you could have been hiding out there, and so they contacted the owners, but they had not seen him. And I heard a girl's voice on the line. I heard a girl in a boy's voice, and then they hung up, and I don't know what that was all about. So where am I at now? Suzanne's Law. Yeah. So I get a call at 8 in the morning. I don't know if I'm missing anything here.
So we were just finishing up Wednesday. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens on Wednesday, but we can.
Yeah. So I called the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department, and they were saying there was nothing they could do because Aiden's out of the state. What do you want us to do? That's exactly what the guy said to me. Wow. If you can believe it. What do you want me to do? He's not here. And so then I see, he went to Wendover. So at 8:50 the next morning, what else is going on? There's a lot of stuff. Dispatch. Yes, I refuse to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
And internet searches and stuff. So then the next day, they call me Yeah, I was trying to call him all the time. Yeah, so 8:50, Elko County calls me and they said they found his truck, and I was like, oh my god, that's great.
Yeah.
He said he's on the side of the road, and I said I'm coming. So
Right.
me and my friend, we just like I called my friend. She's like, we're out of here. I said I literally was flying her. I didn't even know what I was throwing. I just started throwing stuff out. I threw everything out the front door and I was waiting for her. And so we were talking, we were calling his friends on the way. I talked to one of his ex-girlfriends and she gave me all the information she could. I called one of his close friends and he told me that no, he hadn't heard from him. I didn't have a lot of the phone numbers to a lot of his friends, just some of them, the close ones. And then and I had some of his girlfriend's numbers. I always said, just give me your girlfriend's number in case your phone goes out. It happened enough that I strangely had his girlfriend's phone numbers, especially when the one he loved so much. I took him over to her house all the time. And so, I'm calling them and they're saying I haven't heard from him. And I'm just grabbing at straws and I keep continually calling police through this whole ride. We get there. I think we got there at 5 something. And we meet the lieutenant and the undersheriff out in the parking lot, and they said that they had people out looking for Aiden right then, and then that they were looking, and there was nothing that we could do right now. It was going to be dark soon, and we had just get a hotel, rest up, and
Yeah.
start again in the morning. But that they found tracks leading away from the truck, and so. Bear in mind now, I didn't know it at the time that they had found his truck 24 hours earlier, the NHP. And so when we looked at that footage, it came over dispatch that he was missing in 21. And it appeared to me that this guy had no idea what that meant. When you get a missing 21 and under, you are supposed to drop everything unless there is a life-threatening call. If there's any property damage or auto accidents, this is to take precedence.
This takes priority over that.
It's almost like an Amber Alert without the Amber, but it's considered that level of urgency. That's the urgency that you are supposed to respond to it with the urgency of an Amber Alert.
Right.
That's what 21 and under means. That's Suzanne's law. They're citing Suzanne's law. It means start looking now. It means move your
butt.
Yeah. So we saw him get that, and he was just like, and he did one of these. He did one of these. He walked 4 steps, did one of these. Walked back over to Aiden's truck door, and he shut the door. He didn't lock it. He did have, we saw the body cam. He had his duffel bag there. I didn't see his wallet was maybe under it. I just saw the duffel bag on the body cam, and then he just shut the door. And there was a book on the ground. There was some stuff strewn out on the ground. Now, I didn't see this for a very long time after that. But he just shut the door. He didn't lock it. A lot of people think they locked it. They didn't. I think maybe they were hoping he would come back. But he didn't lock it. The reason they needed the keys was because on his iCloud, I saw that he was looking up spark plugs. And so we thought maybe the truck was having engine trouble and they wanted to test that out. And I couldn't find his keys for a while. He threw a bunch of his stuff out in the garage, and his keys were not hanging on the hook. I had to go out to the garage, the pack rat garage, and dig through all of his boxes until I finally found them. And then I actually drove back to Elko and gave it to them. I handed it in person. I didn't want to ship those.
No, yeah.
So we're at the hotel. We're staying down in Idaho. Shout out to Shutters. I love them. They were amazing to us. They were really there for us. I mean, they were.
What is Shutters? I'm sorry.
Shutters is Shutters. It's a hotel in
Oh, it's a
Oakville.
hotel. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they were amazing. They found out pretty soon what was going on. It was, I was traumatized. I was a mess.
Yeah.
And so I was crying. I looked like I was a mess. So he they were, let's see. So Aiden, oh, I forgot about the whole thing about the witnesses. We saw on the sheriff's webpage that people were, they put out a thing for Aiden missing, that Aiden was missing on the sheriff's Facebook page. And then we noticed that in the comments that someone had said that her husband went by that. So where Aiden's truck was stopped was at the 23-mile marker, very close to the 23-mile marker.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why he stopped there is that the shoulder gets really wide right there. And like semis could pull off. It's not always that wide. It just gets really wide there. And directly across the street from there is a weather station. And I'm thinking, so soon as you leave Wells, soon as you start going south on Wells, about 10, 15 minutes after you go south, you lose cell service. And we found out that the only thing that really works out there much at all is AT&T. Like you can text with AT&T out there most of the time. You can sometimes get phone calls out there, but Verizon is hit or miss. I mean, it's barely at all. And so I think maybe he stopped there, maybe thinking that was a cell tower, because it kind of looks like, it's this weather thing, and there's a light pole sticking up and raised up. And he pulled over there, and like they said, it's a place. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So they said that that's a place a lot of people stop there, because it does have such a wide shoulder, and so people are like, oh, I can pull over here, if I need a break or
pit stop. Sure.
Pit stop. So Aiden was pulled over there, and the rancher went by and saw him standing on the passenger side of his truck, looking pretty serene, just kind of like checking out the sunrise. Just looking very serene there. And he didn't think much of it, because that's where people stop.
Yeah.
He drives up and down there all the time. He sees people stop there.
I'd be taking a potty break.
Yeah, exactly. There's trees over there. This is right alongside BLM land. Anybody can go on BLM land,
Yep.
And so so then his worker they're moving, I guess they were moving stuff for the ranch. And he came by and he saw Aiden going under the fence about 8:30 or so. He saw Aiden going under the fence. So when you're going down this stretch of road, you can see quite a ways. There's nothing, And so I think as he approached, he saw Aiden pushing stuff under the fence. And then he saw him take something soft under the fence. Now, I don't know if he was wearing his jacket and he was taking he said it looked like a blanket or a jacket. And it could have been another hoodie. And I hope that it was. And so they saw him moving stuff under the fence around that time, like at 8:30 or so. Well, the end of the call from NHP was clocked out at 8:50. 8:50 is when he marked Aiden's car with a grease paint pen. So he shut the door, went around, got his grease paint pen, and wrote 8:50 on the back of Aiden's truck, and it's still on there. And then he got in his car and drove away, and he called in the code for call is over.
Ugh. How frustrating and terrible.
This was literally minutes after Aiden exited his car.
Exit the vehicle.
And so we heard on dispatch on this that he heard 21 and under, missing and 21 and under, and nothing from this guy. He didn't even call the original reporting agency, like, okay, we should call Sonoma County Sheriff's, or, and maybe should have called, I don't think any of that happened. And yeah, it's awful. And I didn't know this till later. I put it together later because, I hadn't gotten the footage for a long time. I didn't get the footage for a very long time. I went in and talked to the sheriffs, and that was an interesting story I'll tell later. But I was not happy with them.
Yeah.
I was really not happy with them when I put it together. How tight of a circle of time that was, and that they didn't call jurisdiction. I mean, they ran his plates, and it came up, and what? You didn't do, it was that infuriated me.
Right.
So at this point now, back on the 27th, and we're at the hotel, and we're waiting for Elko to call us all the time, and they did a search. I mean, it was like it was Elko County, which they pulled all the stops out. They had so many people out there. They had a fugitive team that tracked him on Thursday night, but that's like 24 hours after the. It's Aiden walked out of his vehicle at 8:30 in the morning. I'm guessing 8:15, and this was a full day and a half later. And so that was a real missed opportunity by law enforcement.
Right.
Who pulled him over, and because the first 48 hours are the most important.
Of course.
So I think we should have an Amber Alert. And I know not an Amber Alert, a Purple Alert like DeSantis. I don't know. Whatever you feel about DeSantis, Purple Alert is a very good idea. And that's one in Florida where they made a separate alert now for people undergoing mental crisis, because it is such a huge problem. We are literally having another pandemic of mental health crisis, and nobody's really, California has been addressing it, but they still haven't got a Purple Alert yet, and I'm asking them to get one. And I think we should petition to get one on the on a national level.
Sure.
Actually, because this is a national crisis.
Yeah.
This is a national crisis, not just with young people, but pointedly with young people. It's all across everywhere. But so Governor Newsom, and he literally passed these like 6 weeks to 8 weeks after Aiden went missing.
Oh.
And so one is SB 803, that's peer support, that's like at schools and stuff. There's SB 855, which is a lot of mental health and other psychiatric help, like on school campuses, I think.
Uh-huh.
Then there's the SB 221, which is because Kaiser was booking things 6 to 8 weeks out, and they said, no, you have to treat it like you would a medical condition. So you must treat them within 10 days of them calling for an appointment. Then they said there's another one. This is a really important one. It's AB 1394, which is for general. If you go into a hospital or an acute care center, they are going to do mental health checks, and they're going to do them for young people for suicidal ideation or other symptoms from 12 years and up. Every time you go into a acute care or a emergency room, they're doing that now, because in California they did I don't know where there was a study that showed that teenagers, young people up into the age of 20, maybe 23, who either committed suicide or had major psychiatric episodes, had been to a doctor or an emergency room 60% in the last 30 days before they committed suicide or had a major psychiatric episode, and 30% within 1 week. So if they've been to the emergency room within 1 week, that's where you catch them, and so 30% was within 1 week and 60% within the last 30 days. And they come into the hospital for various reasons, but and I think it's because they probably really want help in some way, or maybe they're out of control and they've hurt their arm, they're having manic or depressive, and they've maybe hurt themselves or had a temper, and you just don't know. Their emotions are so high. So that's why they made that law. I think it's a really important law. It'd be great if that went nationwide too.
Sure.
Also, I think HIPAA needs to be reformed, because if you're paying for your child's, they're going to college and stuff, and you're paying for their insurance, you should have some basic information. Are they that if they're seeing a psychiatrist? You don't have to know who the doctor is, but are they seeing a psychiatrist?
Right.
If you can know that, then they're on medication. Okay?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Because that's all that psychiatrists do, is prescribe medication. That's what they do. And I found a psychiatrist, a Kaiser psychiatrist card in my son's wallet when I recovered it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what he told his friend was probably correct, that he had gone on medication and didn't like it, and he probably didn't like it and was trying something else.
Oh, and that might be tough too, especially because I know, just like I was saying before, you get on that medication, it does take time to work, and it's going to sometimes make your symptoms worse. And then if you stop it immediately, I mean, it's just
or change it suddenly.
Yes, it's all combination of bad. It's I've dealt with it, not at an extreme level, but I've experienced it, and that is tough.
Yeah. So I don't know how much more time we have on here, Chris.
We can take as much time as you want. I just want to mention before I forget, because we've gone for a bit. I just want to say to all the people watching, if you would like to support Amy and the Aiden Clune Foundation, there is a link at the very top. It's a Facebook group, Help Find Aiden. There you've got some bracelets you've made. Do you want to?
No, these are actually, they're necklaces.
Or necklaces. I'm so sorry. Yeah, necklaces.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic.
No, it's okay. And so they're the mental health.
Yeah, I've got. I'll show one.
Yeah. So we're making these necklaces, and on the one side we have MHM, and we went around so it's called 211 for help, or 988 is the psychiatric, and that's actually one of the older ones. The newer ones actually tell you, it says call 988 for help and 211 for services. And
I don't have those.
Yeah, that's nice. And so we've gone round and round about what MHM means. I mean, at first we said mental health matters, but that's kind of a, it's overused at this point. So we were like, mental health missing. The last M can stand for anything, or mental health mercy. Mental health mercy, mental health mission.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to be on. And so I've had my sister, she gave one to a young man on the street, and she went out and befriended him and was talking to him. I also did that to a young person. He told me he was having mental problems. We talked. I gave him some money and some food. I gave him the necklace so that he can call. And I told him about my son. And I ask anybody, who gets the necklace, if they end up giving it to somebody who needs it, and to tell them about Aiden,
Sure.
Why it's important to call these numbers.
Sure. I think that's great.
Yeah. And so my sister, she befriended this kid, and she actually got him to call his mother.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were telling me. That's so amazing.
Yeah, this was in Southern California recently, and she talked to him. She got him some food, some waters, and he was saying he was also having mental issues, and so she said, "I'm going to give you this necklace. It's 988." And he goes, "Oh, I always forget that number. They're out there trying to struggle, and they're struggling with mental health, and so, it seems simple, but it's not always that simple." And so she said, "I just want to ask you." She told him about Aiden, and then she said, "Does your family know where you're from? I mean, where you're at right now?" And he said, "No, they don't know." And she asked him where he was from, and he said Florida, but she wasn't quite sure she believed him. They get very sketchy about personal information like that. They're out there living on their own. But she said, "Can you please call your parents and just let them know that you are alive and okay?"
Yeah.
And he said, okay, he called her right in front of my sister. And then he gave my sister like a huge hug, because
Oh,
what we need to realize is these kids need help, and they just need to be seen
yeah.
like human beings and that they matter.
Yes.
And that's what she did. And I hope that's what I did for the young man I met. And that's what we all need to start doing, is reaching out to these kids. Just start a conversation with them and ask them how they're doing. And if
Yeah.
there's anything you can get them, you get them a hamburger, get them something to eat, just get into this conversation, and tell them, your family loves you. And I do understand that some people can't go back home because they're going from these really horrendous situations. I
Sure.
understand that, but just see them and treat them like a human being, and give them some help. And I'm hoping at some point, because these are the more expensive ones that I made. They're stainless steel and they're engraved on both sides. But I'd like to get some find a way, like we were considering doing some dog tags or a different material,
Oh, yeah.
something else that has all the information on it, so that we can get them to school counseling departments, like high school and middle school counseling departments, and into these programs like SAY here, social youth advocates. And you can get them in places like that for these kids too. So they always have it no matter where they are, or they can give it to somebody else that needs it.
Sure. Sure. And
So
these numbers are nationally, right?
yeah, I
211.
do believe. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had a question about that. Wanted to make sure because that's um, and
And
one
yeah,
thing. Oh, I'm sorry. What?
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so I don't forget,
Yes.
because the search that's going on, I just want to reiterate on that. So just in case, because I know I've got a lot of followers here in Utah, and the last time when I first did this for Dale and Rounds, we actually ended up having some people that watched the show end up going and helping searching for
Yeah.
Dylan. So I would hope the same. So
The locals have been really great out there about coming out. They're so generous with their time and energy. I mean, we've had locals come out, and we've made really good connections and relationships with people out there who have helped us look. So it's going to be, I know this is a weird day to start, but it was at the time we had to plan it far enough in advance to let people know.
yeah,
There was still 2 feet of snow on the ground, and we didn't want to get there too early and have it be just like this giant mud. There was a possibility of flooding and mud everywhere. And we were like, when is the best time? We don't have a
yeah,
crystal ball. So
right.
we pushed it up to it. That is Mother's Day Sunday. That is true. And so that might be a quiet day for us, but that's okay. I mean, we can get in there and start gridding out some of
Yeah.
these areas and just trudge along that day. That'll be fine. But
Uh-huh.
it's all week long until
Yep.
so that's Sunday, May 14th to May 20th. We're going to be out there all week long. What we're going to do is, like, if people contact us and give us the days that they'll be out there, we're going to go drive up into Wells, meet you early in the morning.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what time right now, but it'd probably be 7 and at the latest. And then what we do is ask you to download Onyx Hunt app on your phone, which
Yeah.
they give a free 7-day trial. And I'm going to try and do a live screen, where I'm recording my screen on my phone, so that I can show people how to use this, because there's this really great feature on there. First of all, it tells you where all the public lands are, and there's very little private property, but it shows you where that's at. Like, there's a little square around it, and it's a different color. You can't go
Yeah.
on private property, right? But it shows all the roads, the elevation. But there's this really amazing feature that they have, which is offline tracking. So
Yes.
if you it's offline maps and tracking. So you have to do this when you're up in Wells, when you have cell service, because with 10-15 minutes down the road, you're not going to have cell service. So
Yeah.
while you have the cell service, you turn on offline maps. And what it does is it freezes, like, I don't know how many square miles into a locked map, and
Yep.
keeps track of you inside of that.
Yep.
And if you turn the tracking on as well, when you're up there, when we're gassing up, you have to have full tank of gas and get whatever you need, coffee. And then, so you turn on the offline maps, you turn on the tracking, and then that will follow you through the wilderness. And if you get turned around, you just look at your phone and follow your tracks back out.
Yep.
You know, but we don't plan on that happening. We plan on people being in teams, and if somebody is less experienced, they will be teamed up with someone who's more experienced.
Sure.
And then we have two-way walkie-talkies. We're going to have a base camp. We're going to be checking in all the time. We're going to have lots of snacks and water, just lots of water. And if you want something heartier, please bring it. It's just too much to bring that all in every day. But I've gotten really good at the snack thing. It's like beef jerky and, you know, something sweet and something salty and crunchy, you know, savory, all of that. So, you know, we love everybody who can help. I really appreciate it. I had one lady who said she was 56, she told me, and she said, I think I can hike. How can I help? And I haven't even got back to her yet, but, you know, we need people to go up into people in southern Idaho to check out and spread Aiden's posters around in
Oh yeah.
In what is that lake? Falls? What's it called? Falls. There by Jerome. It's just on the other side of the border there.
Let me.
What is that called?
And that's south, right?
No, it's north on 93. It's
north.
actually where 93 goes north, and I can't believe I can't remember the name of this town because I've seen it so many times on the map.
Twin Falls.
Twin Falls. Aiden
yes.
had a thing in his iCloud about going to Jerome, which is this little town outside of Twin Falls, and he had directions to a Twin Falls Flying J truck stop.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we need people to go around, get his flyers if they want to meet us at the truck stop in Wells and grab a bunch of flyers and go up there and hit up all the food banks, the the shelters, and if there's any place like that, Salvation Army, even if you go into the jails, but because Aiden doesn't have any ID. He'll be a John Doe. So we'd like that, people, we really need that. If people want to do that in Salt Lake City area, if they want to do that in Twin Falls, southern Idaho area, that would be great.
Yeah.
Just kind of canvassing those places.
Camilla asks, Amy, can you check and see if Aiden is on some kind of government assistance? Lots out there for mental health.
Well, I'm sure I wouldn't be able, if he was, I would not be able to be privy to that information. Also, there's this. He does not have, I checked his files. He does not have his birth certificate. He doesn't have his social security card. He doesn't have his driver's license. All of his identity was either at home or on the truck in his wallet. Now, I don't know if they would turn him away or what they would do in that case. I know that there's people that work on that for homeless people because
that's true. Yeah.
Often their stuff is stolen from, it's rough out there. This stuff gets stolen all the time. It's a real problem for people. They can't even get a job. When people say get a job, their bag was stolen and they have no ID,
Right.
Yeah.
And you got to get money to get the ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Once that happens, once you're out on the streets, there's a lot of thefts going on the streets, and your stuff gets stolen. And you have no identity.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. If people want to come down and get posters, or just print them out, they're on Aiden's page, and that is Help Find Aiden Clune on Facebook.
Which I've got pinned at the top, just to remind the folks watching. Yep.
There's all kinds. We have the search posters on there too. If you're good, me and my sister huff and puff. It's high altitude. We're at 17 feet above sea level here in Sonoma. So, so when you get back there at ground level and you haven't even climbed one hill in that range, you've driven back in the canyon, Cottonwood Canyon, you're at, I think, 5,500 feet.
Yeah, sounds
So
about right. Yeah.
you guys are used to that. There were these guys, I would say elderly gentlemen who, I don't want to say elderly, but they were mature men, and they shot up the mountainside like billy goats. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe the guys who found the bed down. He's
Oh,
suddenly
wow.
yelling. We're huffing and puffing up the side of the mountain. He's up at the top, yelling
Uh-huh.
down, "Hey, hey, I found something." I mean, and I've noticed that about some other guys too. They just take off like a shot up a mountain, and it's amazing to me. So
Yeah.
I'm bringing a canister of oxygen.
If I have Steve come with me, he was talking about that same thing,
Yeah,
because he's retired and he's in Georgia, and so he's closer to the sea level. Where
yeah.
in Utah and Nevada we are higher elevation,
Mhm.
and so we're
High desert.
acclimated for it. So, but it's weird because when you're growing up, you don't think of things like that, and then
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So that's in 3 weeks. We are hoping to get, I mean, we've had a lot of people contact us and want to come out and help. And all you have to do is call that number. I'm going to have a sheet and make up, like what day you'll be able to make it. We need
Okay.
your name, your phone number, of the names of the parties of people if it's more than you, and emergency contact information.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to get that all organized before we go out there,
Yes.
that we can head into Wells in the morning and pick you up. And everybody will have two-way radios, and we'll be checking on you continuously. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of areas out there that have not been looked at that we're very interested in, that have not been looked at yet. And if Aiden got out, he would have gone out north, because I'll tell you why. I walked up. They told us they pinged his phone on the side of that mountain. And so that's why we went up there, and where his last footsteps were seen. And as soon as I got to the coordinates of where his last footsteps were, my Verizon phone, which is what Aiden had too, my
Uh,
Verizon phone alert started going off. So I had
Interesting.
no cell reception until I got to that spot, and my cell phone started going crazy. And when I turned around on the side of this mountain and looked, I could see the highway. I could see the highway clear as day. All the trucks going up and down the highway, and that was in daytime. Can you imagine at night? I mean, it would have been,
All the lights.
yeah, it
Yeah.
would have been lit up like Christmas tree. I mean,
Yeah.
so he could have waited until morning and just walked out of there like these Ruby Mountain Rebel guys did.
Yeah.
Walked out north. There's two roads going out north towards that highway. And we found nothing. We have found nothing but shoe prints. I mean, if you have hypothermia, you're going to start taking your clothing off. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. And he was wearing a lot of layers. You said he had North
Yeah,
Face
we didn't
jackets.
find a shred of coat. There was no sign of animals, like predators in the area. No sign of that, because if we saw Aiden and his tracks and the ground was so wet, we would have saw predator tracks. There's no sign of that.
Uh-huh.
There's no sign of any of his clothes, and there's absolutely nothing, like nothing out of a pocket, nothing. His phone has not been found. They thought there was an iPad too, which has not been accounted for.
Oh.
Yeah, when Mike went into Aiden's truck in Salt Lake City, I did not know Aiden had a iPad,
Uh-huh.
but apparently he had an older iPad. And when Mike got into the truck, he said Aiden had an iPad on the console. And I said, no, that was not an iPad. He just got a new iPhone Pro 13. It's just big phone. He goes,
Yeah.
no, it was
This
an
was
iPad.
oh.
And then later I really scoured his car, like I was looking for stuff, and I found a really old charger. It was a Verizon charger, and it was way under his driver's side in the back.
Uh-huh.
And so I ran the manufacturer code or whatever on it, and it's a older Verizon iPad. I mean, it's an old. I don't get this. I just don't understand. It's an old iPad charger. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
A lot of just a question keeps coming up. Any tattoos?
Yes. So, oh my God, did we not get you the tattoo pictures?
I think I seen one, but I wasn't sure if it was.
Hmm. Oh my God, regrets.
That's
Okay. So,
okay. You can send it to me, and I can.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Aiden had a A's logo, a
Uh,
green and yellow A's logo on his ankle, I believe on his right ankle.
oh, okay.
And then he had this very unusual, no, that might have been on his left ankle because he had the other one was over here. So on his left ankle, he had the A's, and then on his right, he had the smiley face, which is an unusual smiley face. The smiley face is a centipede. Wish I could send it to you right now. But it's buried in the phone. I know everything is buried because I'm constantly taking screenshots and more pictures.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then it's like a centipede. It's on his right torso, and there's a centipede is making the smiley face, and then there's two eyes that are made out of ants. So the ants outline the eyes.
Oh, wow. That sounds kind
Yeah,
of
it's
cool.
unusual and it's very distinctive. So if you see a smiley face made out of insects, that it's probably him.
Yeah, that's
On the
pretty
side, but it's on the
distinctive.
side of his torso. It's covered up most of the time. So the A's logo is pretty distinctive. Gosh, I'm so sad I didn't get that to you. I think my sister put it on on our website. We've had, well, some police are very cooperative and others aren't, unsolved cases and news. Some are and some aren't. I'll just tell you, but
Yeah.
you have to be persistent. Here's the thing I say that, a lot of times we take the police's lead and they're like, oh, you sure you want to do this? Or why don't you call that jurisdiction back? You just say no. You say, no, I'm making a report with you. And
Right.
no, this is what I want you to do. And they kind of, if you tell them you're making a report and they have to take it.
Right.
So some are. It just depends on the jurisdiction. How they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the water. Yes. So as you got up the mountains, Kamala, the mountains had snow on them, and the reason why the sheriffs and all of the guys, it was Fish and Game, BLM officers, White County, Idaho Search and Rescue, aerial search. Who else was out there? So many people. When they started tracking him, when he went over the Palomino Ridge, came down on the other side on the bench, they noticed something that he was consistently going in a southwest direction. And that was because, and every time they looked up, they saw the same thing. There was a patch of snow. Those mountains had snow on them. There was no snow on the bottom. As you got higher, there were little patches here and there.
Sure.
But there was big patches of snow. There was still snow on the top of the mountains. And one looked like an arrowhead. It was pointing. And they think that Aiden, in his state of mind, was following that for some reason. He might have seen it as a sign.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Huh.
So they started heading in that direction. They started heading southwest. That's where his tracks were going. And then they decided to jump ahead and just jump ahead on a leap of faith and save some time and go into this canyon here. He went into this canyon and the triangle. If you want to move to
yeah. We go to
move
the
over there
triangle.
to where the triangle is, and they jumped into this area. They just came up to the road that's on the right there, and they went in, and they found right on the right with that footsteps, his shoals. He had come down the shoals there. So all these shoals were disturbed, and they saw his footprints. Then he crossed the road, and they found footprints there. And then he headed across this triangle, headed west, and he went into this tree area. And they saw him. He circled around a tree a few times. I think they said he was barefoot when he did that. There was no snow on the ground when that happened.
Wow.
And yeah, he circled. I think he was distraught.
Yeah.
Every time I hear about that, it just breaks my heart.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
So then he continued across, and And these mountains don't look like it, but they go straight up.
Yeah, they don't look as steep, but I guess when you do it
If
this
you put
way,
the
they look.
altitude thing on it, they just kind of go straight up.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really hard to get up those mountains. And not
Sure.
only that, they're completely choked with tumbleweed plants.
Oh gosh, I
I
hate those.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Oh,
So
good.
when
Yeah.
I was up there and I saw the highway and I turned around and I tried to get down, you're stepping over these super packed, tumbleweed plants,
Oh yeah.
and my legs started to get tired, and I was starting to trip over the tumbleweeds because it's so steep as well. So I decided that I was going to follow some cow tracks down, which switch back and forth.
Oh,
And what
uh-huh.
happened was, in a few minutes, I was out of eyesight with my team, and in a few seconds, I thought, okay, I'll just go this way and then it'll switch back. It never switched back. And they started yelling, Amy, Amy, and I couldn't hear them. And I'm yelling, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it just, the vastness of that area and the trees, that just swallows up sound. You
Yeah.
can't hear anybody. So I'm yelling. They're yelling. I can hear them yelling from down below because now
Uh-huh.
they've radioed them. We lost Amy. I felt like such a ding dong, I'm like, that's rule number one. Don't do
Don't get
that,
lost. Yeah.
because it took a few seconds and I was I was lost. So I started coming back to the left and I finally started waving, but you never want to lose anybody on your team. Do not walk out of distance.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to tell people, once you get a team, don't leave that team. Okay. If it's two of you and you kind of know what you're doing, and so you're not going to get lost, then just always together, always in eyesight.
Little
Never
buddy
walk.
system. Yeah.
Yeah. Do not walk away from each other and out of each other's line of sight. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was really harsh. And this is one of my theories, is that sagebrush was so packed and hard to go down. He might have gotten up because his footsteps, they can tell they're toed in to the ground. That they
Yeah.
can tell, they can read the
They're
footsteps.
dug. Yeah.
Dug toed in first, but not coming down. And I see why. It was way more treacherous going back down. So he probably went up and then got that shelter in the trees, is what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And then he saw the light. He saw where the road was. I
Yeah.
know he saw where the road was, and hopefully walked out the next morning.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
still have to search this area to make sure, because I'm not leaving Aiden
Sure.
anywhere. I'm not
Yeah.
going to leave him anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a two-pronged approach here, everywhere else and here.
Yeah.
So, we do have a GoFundMe because it's very expensive to keep going out there and renting vehicles and, side-by-sides we rented. We've gotten great discounts. It's great, but it's still super expensive. I just looked at getting my Honda Element to get it lifted because it's an all-wheel drive. Yeah. And I thought, this car's old enough. I'll just sacrifice it. We'll just put it on. It'll go through there. But I'm calling people at getting it lifted, and on the internet it says, oh, it's just like $500. These guys are telling me, well, it's $1,500 for the labor, and it's like another 15 for the parts.
Oh, go
I'm like,
figure.
I know, and so it's like we're trying to find some way to be able to do that. So it costs a lot of money when
Sure.
you're out of state. So, and like I was telling somebody before, I don't know if it was you, but 4x4 vehicles, when you rent those are dig me, the Jeeps and stuff. You are not to be going through terrain in those things. They don't want to see what they call Nevada pinstripes on your on your beautiful
Yeah.
your beautiful 2023 Rubicon or whatever Jeep.
Yeah.
And you know what Nevada pinstripes are. If you live out there, you know what that is. That's just brush, scraping the paint.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's not something you can do. And so we looked and looked, could we buy a cheap 4x4? And, we've been looking everywhere, trying to find a solution to that. but we really just want to find him this time. I don't care if it's in or out of the range. If I find that he got out, I will be relieved. I continue to look elsewhere as well.
Sure. Keep out all the options available. And I like how if the people if they can't get out there on the terrain that's tough terrain, put up posters, down in Twin Falls.
Well, if people show up, if people tell us like I don't have a 4x4, we're going to have vehicles. We'll be able to
assign.
We'll be able to get you out, but we won't be able to take a lot of people like that. We'll see what it works. If you don't have a vehicle, call us anyways. We'll see if we got room in one of our vehicles and take you back there and return you, at sunset, because we have to get out of there at sunset. And so that's not a deal breaker. But if you have dirt bikes, there's this one area north of the burn that's just kind of rolly. It's not really severe. People with dirt bikes would actually love that area.
They'd be doing jumps.
It's really, it's not, it's very conducive to dirt bikes, and we need people like that too to go in and look under trees and explore those areas, stop and glass, but it would be, that's kind of a dirt biker's dreamscape back there, the north of the burn. Just saying.
Hey, have a little fun and help search at the same time.
And so then on the page, we also are going to have the necklaces available, and I hope to have that information up with. I think I have PayPal and Venmo, and we're going to work that out. So, like, if people direct message me with their info, I can give them that information, and we'll ship it right out to you. And they're like, right now, I'm trying to keep it down. I'm trying to get it to be $25 with tax and shipping.
Okay,
that's what I'm trying to get it at, and I think I might have it at that. So
amazing. And once again, you can, if you're interested, you go to Help Find Aiden Clune Facebook page. I have the link, and for those that are rewatching the show, I'll have it in the description, and I'll put it in the comments section as well. And then I put the GoFundMe as well, which is at the top if you wants to donate to that. So multiple ways to support. And I think we'll finish up here. Any final things you'd like to share before we go?
I don't know how long it's going to take me to find Aiden. I'm never going to stop, but I'm going to continue that fight, but I'm also going to continue the fight to get federal funding for like a purple alert, and also to get a national coalition for missing persons and their families. And I love that. Anybody who's interested to contact me, and let's get it going.
I love that. Yeah. And if you ever need, come on the show and you get that start going, you want to get that word out, I'd be more than happy to have you on. And
I would love that. We need it.
Yes, I agree.
We all need it.
I agree. That sounds like, is that a phone call? You're probably.
How was that? Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. That's my.
I thought that was like your ringtone or something.
No, I thought that was you. I don't know why, but my CD kicked on.
Oh, is that what that is?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Hang on.
No, that's okay. Don't.
Oh my gosh, worry. I thought that was you. I thought you were wrapping it up. Hang on just a minute. There we go. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I thought you were ending the show, and I thought, I like this song.
Yeah. I have good taste.
I don't know what happened.
We have good taste.
I was just sitting here.
Yeah. All right. No, that's okay, Amy. Like I said, I will get in touch with you later, and as closer to when it gets to May 14th. But I just want to say thank.
For him.
Oh,
no, I can't hear.
You can't hear me? Test now, Amy. Oh no, that's okay. Let me write out something. Oh, where did that go? I'll get to your guys' super chats here in just a second before I go.
I'm sorry, I can't seem to make this stop. I don't know why. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm trying to get it to force quit.
Yeah. Oh. Oh. Can you read the? Trying to get her to. Oh, where'd my other message go? I'll put you. Okay. Oh, she left. All right, guys. Thank you, Amy, for coming on. That's a bummer. I didn't get to wish her farewell. I'll call her after the show. I just want to get to a couple of donations real quick. Sorry, guys. I know you had a lot more questions at the beginning, and I just didn't interrupt her. Didn't want to interrupt her because she had a lot to say, and I really wanted to. It was, it's her time. So, but I did try to get as much as I could in there. Linda C., thank you so much. Hi, a little something for your trip. Thank you so much. All the donations on this side, of course, are going to go to the trips that we've got. We've got the material ordered. Mitzi, thank you so much. Prayers for Aiden, all the beautiful souls needing help. Henry, Dog, thank you so much for your PayPal. Oops, I got Linda. Who else did I? And just thank you, everybody, for taking the time to watch the show. Richardson family. Chris, thank you so much for circling back to Aiden. Best wishes to you and Amy, and hopes for a successful trip and some resolution. Sending prayers. Thank you. Totally agree. One way or another. And once again, Linda C., thank you so much for the super chats. You guys are so amazing. And like I said, I promise this will be going towards the trips. We've already got the gear ordered ahead of time, and just can't wait to get out there and help Amy and with the trip in Texas just before. So I'm sorry I couldn't get to all the questions and comments. I really wanted it her time, and she had a lot to say. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the members. Thank you to everybody else who takes the time. Please smash that like button so the word can get out. I do have a new pet outro. I'm still adding some more pets, but I do have a new one. And then I will see you guys probably Sunday. I'll have a Sunday live show. So let me see. Where's my new one? It's in a different folder. There it is. Okay, new pet outro. I love you guys. Thank you so much. You're welcome for covering this case. And I love Amy. She's so sweet. And we will see you guys. Have a great weekend.